what you can do with ComfyUI other than using it for running Stable Diffusion. I have collected almost 30 different use case things like image to text, how to create caption, how to create sound effects direct from one image, and some other ones are just as a simpler functions, some effects, filters, or image enhancements. Quickly I will show all of the things I found myself using for the last month and how you can make your workflow even more complex with all of these functions, so you don't need to go any other software other than ComfyUI. Let's start. First one is LLaVA. If you don't know what LLaVA is, it's basically image to text model that can understand what is happening in the image and you can ask questions about that image. So we have our main LLaVA module here. You need to download 2 models to be able to use it, and we can write our prompt in this part, connect our image. Let's say we want to use this image, and we can say things like describe the location of the image and what is happening. And if we run it, we will get something like the image features a serene scene with 2 small wooden cabins situated on the stills of the forest. They are positioned next to each other, overlooking a picturesque lake or pond. It's pretty accurate, and we can also ask some other more detailed questions like maybe what are the buildings made out of? Buildings are made out of wood. Or we can maybe try with some different image as well. There is really no limit to what you can ask. Let's put this image now and say maybe what is the style of the in the image. Describe it as your architect. Large modern structure with many windows and unique design. It appears to be residential or commercial building, possibly hotel office space. And the building, and it get cut because the maximum tokens is set as 40. We can increase it to maybe like 300 tokens, and then it will, or it may create longer outputs. Let's change it to 200. Apparently 200 is the maximum one, so we get a way longer output. And with the temperature, you can say how creative the model should be. So this is the first one. Let's go to our second workflow. In our second module, I collected a couple of different ways which you can use to remove background of different objects from any image you want to use. In this case, I will use this picture to remove background. In the first 2 workflows, we don't have control to which object to keep and which object to remove. It is kinda understanding on its own what is the main element in the image and then removes the background for that object. In the second one, we have a couple of different models that we can choose. Some of them are for general purposes, as you can see, and for example this one is focused on the human segmentation, which can be nice. Let's keep this one for now. And the third one is slightly different than the first 2, because in this one we can actually prompt what we want to keep in the image. Let's say we want to keep this armchair. We can type as armchair, and then if we generate it. In the first one, it decided to keep the armchair and this part of coffee table and the frame at the background. In the second one, just the armchair with this piece of wood here. And in the third one, it tried to only keep the armchair, but it also removed this part. We can try to fix this with the threshold value. And also we can try to prompt it more, add more detail. But as we can see, the quality wise is not as good as the first 2, but it is more flexible. So it is up to you in which use cases, which one makes more sense. Let's try to keep the poster on the wall. One of the main reasons why I really like ComfyUI is because it's just an empty canvas, a tool for us. You can do almost everything. If you want to use it to take notes or create mood boards, it's not really possible to do with ComfyUI, but its brother Scrintal can help you with that. Scrintal is a visual note-taking platform where you can place cards on your board and connect ideas together to document them better. Inside each card, we can add lists, images, PDFs, videos, and a few more options as well. They have lots of templates for different kind of use cases, like for research about a blog post, for example, or how we can take lecture notes depending on the different topics. Here are my notes for this video on the board. You can see it's really similar to ComfyUI and super flexible in terms of what you can do with it. I have placed all of the resources, materials and the custom extensions I used in the video here on this Scrintal board. You can find the link in the video description. Thank you Scrintal for sponsoring this section of the video. If you want to try it out, you can use the design 10 code for a discount. Okay, let's continue our third module, which is video to mask, how we can remove the background of the video. So in the first node, we have our load video component, which we can choose here to load our video. In this case, I have a video of this guy dancing, so we can segment him from the background. In this part, we can choose the frame rate. We can keep it 24 or we can reduce it or make it higher. And we can choose a limit of frames. Let's say you don't want to wait for the whole thing until when you are testing. So we can set it like a 30 frames. So it will only generate the first 30 frames of the video. And then we are removing the background for all of the frames. In this case, instead of isNet, this is the one we used previously. I'm gonna use UNet for the human segmentation model. And then we're gonna merge all of the frames back to create our video. So let's run it. And of course, depending on the length of the video, this will take considerably longer because we are doing the same process for each frame. In this case, we're gonna do it 30 times. We can see our guy completely removed from the background and also the alpha channel version of it. If you want to use it to maybe run through controller to create animation videos. Since this is only the first 30 frames, it's not super long. Let's try maybe like a 90 frames with 15 FPS so we can do the whole video. In this one, we can see all of the individual frames that generated. And we end up with a video like this one. So you have really total flexibility on the settings about the FPS and the frames and how you want to segment it basically. Let's continue our fourth module, which is the LLM part, our text generator part. I wanted to show a couple of different workflows for running different types of LLM models. The first one is running totally locally on your computer, or if you're using a server, on your server. In this case, we are using this VLM nodes extensions. We can easily install any models and then we can choose which model we want to use. I have 4 of them installed right now, the Mixtral, and this one is trained especially for Stable Diffusion prompts. It is not super cool, but I can see how you might want to use it. Let's try this. We have 2 prompt options. One of them is the system prompt and the other one is a normal the prompt we want to write. In the system prompt, you can specify like what is the purpose, what type of things you are trying. And then here we can say maybe things like create a prompt for building in desert covered with sand. Here again, similar to LLaVA, we have a couple of options to give the maximum tokens, the temperature and a bunch of other settings. So let's run it. And we have our prompt. I mean, it's a bunch of different things happening here, but I think it's a pretty decent one from model running locally. Let's try another one, maybe Mixtral. When we get a prompt like it actually put image generated prompt. It's a decent prompt. I think we can totally use it. So let's go to our second option. Our node is called Generate Stable Diffusion Prompt with LLM. This one is a bit more different because we are actually using another service to run our LLM. So it's not running locally, but this one is using a platform called OpenTour.ai. In the parameters, the last one, we can choose which model we want to use. And actually there are lots of them that we can try, like the one we used previously. And they even have GPT 3.5 Turbo, Gemini Pro, cloudy, etc. And some of them are saying like free to run these ones. And I think the rest, for example, like GPT-3 Turbo, you have some kind of limit set it to your account. So far, I'm able to use it without any issues, so you can try to check it. All you need to do in this platform, you need to copy API key and go to a config file. You need to paste your key here. After that, it should work. Again, we have our system prompts here, and on the top, we can type our prompt. So I will just use the same ones we used here. And let's try, for example, one of the free ones, Mistral, and run. Get our prompt. It's a similar prompt what we get here because it's the same model. And let's try to use, for example, GPT-3.5 Turbo. We get our response back. The art style, realism. I think because of this prompt, it's creating a bit this categorize here. So maybe let's remove it and send it again. And now with the updated prompt, we get a detailed, a nice prompt. You may think like why I should use GPT here instead of the chat version directly. I see all of these extensions like a component of like a complete workflow. So if you have all of these components like LLaVA, which you can get information from your images, or LLMs, or background removals and other things we're gonna cover, they just become a tool that you can connect them together and create something way more complex. So let's continue. And in the last one, we have a node from MixLab, the ChatGPT node. Here you can directly place your API key that you can get from OpenAI, and then basically use GPT 3.5, 3.5 Turbo, 4, or for the newest version of 4 model directly inside here. You can get your API key from the OpenAI accounts page and then place it here, then write your prompt here and then send it. It should work without any issues. Our LLM part are this locally on a third-party server and then directly from OpenAI. Let's go one more step to Upscale Enhancer workflow. The one on the top, image contrast adaptive sharpening. It's a pretty simple and nice component, I guess. It just removes the blur on top of the image and adds more texture, but not super high to make it obvious that it's been sharpened. So it's a nice one. And in the downside, we have our upscale image using model, and there are lots of models that you can find and use, like for example Real Ascarn are some of the most popular ones, or this full hardy one, or ultra sharp. Let's use ultra sharp model in this one and run. And I added this image composer nodes so we can see the difference between the before and after versions. So first, let's go check the sharpening one. If you zoom in a bit, we can see the details a bit more clearly. For example, the right side is before and after. Of course, there is not much super dramatic change, but I think sometimes it's worth to do this. We can see the blur is disappearing without changing the image at all. And in the down one is the change should be a bit more dramatic because we are upscaling the image 4 times. And we can see from right to left the upscale and the normal version. The one on the left is upscale and the right is the normal one. This upscaling version is not super crazy a good one. It's just a simple, quick one to use. Maybe in between the workflow, between different steps. Not so great to use as a final upscaler because this is not adding any more details to the image. In the next module, we have some image filters that we can use to add some different touches to our images. The first is channel shake, which creates this type of effect with moving the RGB channels of the image. You can set up the distance and the angle you want to shake the channels. We get an image like this. all of these modules, you can think they're more similar to like a Photoshop filter effect functions than nothing like a super crazy image generation ones. But I think they're good to have in a like open source platform like this, so we can do many different things. I can imagine ComfyUI becoming a tool like Grasshopper with lots of different possibilities to do, but of course focus more on the AI tools to interact for non-coders. And the next one is we have a filter for watercolor, the motion blur, and this one is a bit more interesting because this creates a depth map and then it applies a depth blur, and we can choose where to apply the blur, basically how close or how far away. This effect is better to show in something like this image, I think, but let's go check all the other ones. The watercolor gives this type of effect. Of course, we are not actually generating a version of the same image with watercolor style. It's more about the filters and the edge lines around the objects. And this one is a nice motion blur with a horizontal direction. So let's try this one for the depth image. I want to focus on the farthest part, so I will set this one as 0. First, we will create a depth map of our image and then use it to apply. So as you can see, these parts which are closer to us get blurred, and we focus on the further wall like this. And of course, you can change it to the opposite way. So the farthest part will become blurry and we focused on this part. I think this is also a good filter to use, especially for portrait images. So maybe let's say we have something like this image and we want to blur the background. So we can totally do it like this. Maybe this is too much blur. We can also control how strong the blur should be. Let's reduce it a bit and run it again. Smoother. Or the other way around. We blur the girl and then the background is in the focus. Let's change the image and I will turn off these parts. Open this last one. Last one is a bit more different because in this one we are adapting the color of the original image we want to use. In this case, this one to match it with a reference image. And let's run to see what type of effect we will get with these colors. So it changed to like this. We can select the same vibe. Of course, it is up to you if you like it or not, but I think it's a really quick way to change the image. Let's try this colorful one and see how it will affect the image. We can definitely see the effect, but it's a bit too much. So let's reduce it and run it again. So we had like a color correction almost on the image. So these were more dramatic filters like a channel shake or the watercolor, motion blur, depth blur, or the color adaptation. In the next one, we have more simpler enhancement features. The first one is the filter adjustments, which you can change the brightness, the contrast, saturation, sharpness. You can add some normal or Gaussian blurs or enhance the details. This is basically something similar to sharpening. Or the second one is apply some film grain on the top of the image. Or the third one is if you have some LUTs that you can use to adjust the colors, adjust the style of the image. You can upload a bunch of them to your ComfyUI folder and then choose there to apply some effects. I found these ones free online that I will also attach to the video description so you can get the same ones. Let's run it to see all of their effects. Usually what I do is I add like an adjustment filter at the end of my workflow to fix the final image once I like it. Or if you want to keep the maybe same color style along the different images you generate, you can apply the same LUT to all of them to have a similar look. So let's compare. The first one is not so dramatic change. As I said, it's like adjusting the contrast a bit and increasing the saturation. The second one is more about the film grain on top of it. So in this part it's a bit more clear. And the third one is the LUT, color adjustments. This is more change compared to first two. This one is for the vibrant color. Maybe like let's say change to a warm filter and run it. Then we end up an image like this one. Let's continue to now more exciting workflow. Here we have text to audio and image to audio, where we combine a couple of different modes we covered so far. Let's do the first one. Basically in this one we have audio LDM model, generative AI model for creating audios from text. You can give it a prompt here and it will generate the audio. For right now it's set as 10 seconds. We have similar settings like CFG guidance scale, the seat number, and extension type. We have a prompt city life here. Maybe let's change it to Bishop on a busy Sunday. People are talking, large room. Let's run it. Then we get a sound effect like this. This is super cool on its own, but it becomes even more exciting for me when we combine like 3 models after each other. In this one we have our LLaVA image to text model, and to describe our image, the thing I want to do here is image to audio. So we can maybe create image to video first, and then at the same time create image to audio, and then combine them to create a nice video with sound effects on its own. So we have a render like this, and I'm passing to LLaVA describe image, and it is location and environment. And then we are using the answer we get from LLaVA to feed it as a prompt to our local LLM, local chat box. And we are using as a system prompt, you are an advanced sound effect producer AI, suggest the possible sounds for this space, suggest 1 sentence long prompt for the sound effects. And we are using the answer we get from our chatbot to pass it directly to our audio generative model. So let's see what we can end up with. First, LLaVA said a scene is set up in the park, people walking around, enjoying the outdoors, where several individuals in the area, some of them closer, some of them further away. And then our LLM Mixtral model said, create a layered soundscape of ambient chatter, distant laughter, and casual footsteps on various surfaces such as gravel, pavement, grass, and let's hear. I think it was pretty decent, and I can totally see these sounds from this image. So let's try another image. Let's try for this interior kitchen view. I wonder what type of sound effect our chatbot will suggest for the space. Let's see. Sound footstep approaching and stopping in the large modern kitchen, followed by sound of chairs being pulled out and placed back under the kitchen island. I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest. I wasn't expecting a prompt like this for the sound effect, but let's see how good it will try to follow it in our sound effect. It's not bad, but also not super dramatic, because there is not much happening. We basically just heard footsteps in an interior room, but I think you get the idea, and you see the potential of it, how we can use it. So let's continue our next one. This one is similar to the layer effects inside Photoshop, which we can create some drop shadow on some specific object. In this image we are getting the sofa and remove background, and then placing back with some drop shadow. Of course it is up to you after this point how you use it, or we can add a stroke around our object, or we can apply outer glow or reduce the image opacity. Let's see their effect. This is the image opacity reducer, nothing super fancy, but sometimes to blend different elements to each other it might be a nice option. I'm using this color as a background color for now, so we can see the outer glow is like this one. We can change all the colors, the light color, the glow color, and the brightness. This one, we add our stroke around our object with a specific color, in this case red, and our drop shadow. This one is more like a color palette generator from an image. So maybe we can use to create some type of mood board. The first one is we are getting the main color from the image. The second one, we are getting the average color for the entire picture. And then in the third one, we are getting the color palette, but it's like a pixelated version of it. So we can select the blues here representing the building, the greens are here. So according to their location in the image. And the last one, we are saying we want to get 9 colors as a color palette from this image. And these are the color palette used in this image. Let's test another one. For example, maybe this one. And we can see what's the most dominant color. What is the average of them. And then color palette, one for the placement within the image and one in general color palette, which is pretty accurate, I think. So let's continue. Now we have our image to 3D generator. This one is using the Stable 0123 model. And then we are basically creating 6 images from different angles of this space. You can also use a 3D viewer component here and then be able to see it in 3D. This is more on the experimental side because especially in a picture like this, in a like architectural design, I don't think it's super useful yet, but definitely we are going there, especially after the new video models. You get a grid of images like this, and if we checked all of them one by one, this is like a top view of the space. I mean, it's pretty accurate, but of course the background is nothing happening because we don't have any information about that part. But the parts we see is pretty accurate. This is from the behind, I guess. Also, this is from the other side. Again, it's pretty cool that it applied the same pattern of the facade also in this part from the behind and on the side. I totally see some use cases for object design or like a character design, but in this case, it's more on the experimental side. I place a remove in paint workflow. This is a simpler workflow just to remove some objects directly with a given image and given mask as a location of the image. In this one, it's not like a common Inpainting workflow with Stable Diffusion. We are not writing any prompt, any other settings, just the image and our mask. So if we click right and then open in mask editor, let's try to remove one of the windows, for example. Let's say you want to remove this one. Let's say there is like a weird line here. Let's remove that one as well and save it. And now if we run it, it will remove these windows for us and try to blend it with the rest of the image, which in this case is pretty cool, except this part, which you can see some mistakes. Let's try another one. So let's try to remove one of the chairs. It did a pretty good job in this case. I'm a bit surprised, to be honest. Let's copy this one, place it here, so we can try to remove something else to test it. Let's remove this light in the middle. So maybe let's remove this plant here to give it a more challenging task. See how it will go. Again, it's pretty good. In couple of steps, you can change this image to a version like this. The last workflow I want to show is how we can write text directly on top of the image inside ComfyUI and then combine them to create a grid view. Maybe you want to do like some comparison view or show a couple of images together. Let's say we have two versions of the same design, one with like a black concrete like this one, and the other one is with timber facade, and we want to write like their material on top of the image as a small description. Let's write timber facade to this one and this one concrete facade. We are using two different text creators. Both of them are really similar. The most difference between them is one of them you can set up some margins and line spacing, etc. And in the other one you can directly add shadow to the text. In both of them we can choose some different fonts, or you can also just upload your own fonts that you want to use. Let me turn off this part first and run it. You can see where it's written as a text on itself and on top of the image. So this is how we can type text directly on top of the image. I prefer using this one, draw text component, which is a bit easier to use compared to this one. And later you can decide where this text should go on top of the image from the sliders. Right now we are saying 10 pixel to right and 15 pixel to down. So if we move this one, the text should go more into the middle side like this, and same as for the Y. And once you are done with both of them, let's combine them using first image to batch, and then create image grid, which you can set up the border color, border thickness, how many columns you want to have. And then once we combine all of them, we should get a grid with our images in 2 columns like this one. So these are all of the workflows I wanted to share with you. This is a slightly different video trying to show what are the things you can do inside ComfyUI. It is not just the Stable Diffusion user interface, but much more than that. I can totally see this becoming a tool on its own, not just for Stable Diffusion, but with all the new open source developments around AI and similar tools. If you are a non-coder, this is an amazing tool to use almost the full potential of these new technologies and their new models. So I definitely suggest you to take a look into this one. I have prepared so far 2 different videos, how you can install locally on your computer with a single click installation, and also same for the Rampot, how you can use on the cloud if you don't have a computer. These are the 2 videos, so feel free to check them if you want to learn how to install them. Otherwise, thanks for watching up to this point. I hope you liked the video. Let me know which one of the workflows was your favorite one and which one you think you will use. I will include all of the workflows and the necessary extensions, tools, models in the video description, and you can find the direct template on my Patreon page. So thank you for your support and see you in the next video.